Good afternoon. Hey guys. How are you? Shesh Kiki. Hello. How is your afternoon going, everybody? Howdy from Texas. Hey guys, how are you today? It's a beautiful day. Hi from Indiana. Good afternoon, not morning. From Palm Beach, I think I saw. Hey y'all. Hey. All the way from London. Yes. Houston, Texas. Hey. Charlotte, Kentucky. Georgia. Coming to the conference. Awesome. All right. All the way from Park Forest. Hey Elijah, how y'all doing? How are you guys doing? I want to share just a couple of quick points on on the topic of mother and father wounds. Kiki, thank you for inviting your followers. All right. Thank you. North Carolina. Hey y'all. Okay. So just got through working out. I had a later workout today. Hey, from Vegas. Yes, I'm headed to Vegas. And from Dallas. Hey. Mentally strong anointed. Yes. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about I was in the gym, and a lot of times when I'm on a treadmill running, I start thinking and pondering on certain stuff. And if anybody knows me, I like to write notes when I start thinking about stuff. When God starts revealing stuff to me, I love to just write notes. I mean, I have 1,000,001 notes. And I just write all day long. I love it. I probably got enough content to write like 100 books. Seriously, if I combine all of my notes just over the years, just because I love learning, I love studying. And one of the topics that I've always loved to study is the topic of mother wounds and father wounds. And it's a very difficult topic. You right too? Yes. Is it freezing? Oh man, this is the location that messes with me a lot. Are you guys freezing, or is it sometimes it's the person's? Okay, I'll just continue. Let me know if it does start. This location is always really weird. But yeah, I love studying the topic of mother wounds, father wounds, and one of the first topics I began to study actually when I first got saved was the topic of father wounds, because I felt like I had father wounds. I didn't come into knowledge that some of my issues actually came from mother wounds. That took a lot longer for me to discover, and some of you all may not know it, because a lot of people talk about just the father, and we know that fathers are not there as much as mothers are, so we tend to blame everything on the father, but some of this stuff is actually from the mom. And so I want to kind of give you the difference. I came to my car and I just started writing down some stuff about it as I was thinking of it. My father was actually he's a good man. He's an extremely good man. I just had to come to a resolve that he loved me the way he knew how to love me. Although I didn't have the emotional connection with my father that I would have liked, I still had to come to a resolve. Some of you all may have come to a resolve, and he wasn't obviously the perfect father. Again, he wasn't emotionally invested. He was very much so a provider and very comforting, but there was no emotion. I didn't find my purpose and my identity through my dad, which is one of the things that I'm going to talk about that you need from a father. But he just wasn't, he wasn't there. And so I had to come to a resolve, but I had to come to an honest resolve about it. And some of you all may have come to a resolve that is not the right resolve. When some people come to the resolve that I don't need a dad, he wasn't there, I don't need him. That's not a healthy resolve. You do need him. You just may have to come to the resolve that you won't get him. but you do need a father. And if you come to the resolve based on your natural father and what he didn't do for you, and you say, I don't need him, I don't need a father, then what you don't realize is that that resolve will spill over into other areas of your life. So if you do happen to have a spiritual father, or when you relate to God the Father, you will also put those stipulations on them because of the inner vow. Even if you don't know you're doing it, you may feel like, God is everything to me. I don't need a father. I don't, speaking naturally, but that stuff will indirectly spill over into your relationship with God without you knowing it. And it will also spill over into anybody who represents a spiritual father, even if they're not like, if you're not close to them, or if you're not like you don't have their one-on-one time. Just being in a church and the pastor representing the nature of a father, you will actually have inner problems with that man, because your resolve is that you don't need a father. And you can't make that resolve and not think that it won't affect and poison the relationship that you have with God and with men of God who stand as father figures to the body of Christ. So the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you make the right resolve. You do need a daddy. You did need your father. You just didn't get him. And that is the resolve that you have to make, is that you didn't get him. You did need him. Know that you needed him. If you didn't need him, you wouldn't have been born by him. It's just that he didn't live up to the expectation that he should have been as a father, but you 100% needed your dad. So come to that resolve right now. You needed your father, but he wasn't there. And God has protected you and provided for you and been the father that you haven't had. And that's okay, but you do need a daddy, okay? And you did need your father, okay? But God will still provide, nothing missing, nothing lacking. But don't think that you didn't need him. I never needed him in the first place. My mama was my mommy and daddy. No, your mom can't be a father. It's impossible. She wasn't made to be a daddy. She was not your mother and your father. She was your mother. Okay. Now, I'm not reading a lot of the comments, so I hope you're not asking questions right now, just because I'm trying to get the point off. And then I wrote down a few things that I want to tell you about this. And so the father's role is a role that identifies, that helps you come into identity, that helps you feel comforted, that helps you feel safe. A father is there to protect you and to provide. So if you did not have a father in your life doing those things, then one of the results of that is that whenever you go into a relationship, any kind of community, you will always have this. If that part of you is not healed from having father issues, and the father not giving you those that protection, that identity, that feeling of safety and comfort, like you're in a safe place. A father's arms should be the safest place that you can be. But if you didn't have that, then you will never feel safe when you come into a community, an environment, a relationship. There's just this feeling that you cannot be settled. And sometimes even when people, and so you'll have problems making commitments. So if you even some people who can't make a commitment in a relationship, who can't make a commitment at church, at a job, on a job, in school, you just don't feel safe. You feel like there's always a back door that needs to be open, and you always need that option 2 somewhere. You just don't feel safe. And you may think that every time you join something or go to a job, that it's always them, or involve yourself in a relationship, that it's them. But it's really, if you come into a relationship like that, if you come into a church environment like that, then you don't even give the relationship a chance, because you're already unsettled. You're already feeling like this is not a place of safety. I don't feel safe. I don't really trust anybody, because you didn't get that from your father, that emotional need that was to be met. So you will have commitment issues if you don't get healed from it. And I'll talk about that. Now, there are I'll list right now, there are 4 needs that you need emotionally from a father. And one of them is security and comfort. You need that security and comfort. The other one is unconditional love. You need unconditional love from a father. And if you did not receive any of these 4, you have to become healed from it. And now I'm not saying for some of y'all who may have already been through the process of healing, that, you need to go through another cycle again. But also be aware that there are layers and layers of this stuff. And sometimes God will pull some back in certain seasons, but he won't pull it all back, because it could be too much for you to handle in one season, depending on your level of maturity. And depending on your level of relationships and security around you, to be able to stabilize you when he begins to unfold some of this stuff. So God will send relationships and friends and spiritual mentors and things like that to you to prepare you for the uncovering of things that are buried deeper than maybe you could ever realize. The other thing you need from a father is praise and affirmation. So you need praise and affirmation from a father. So for people who have not been affirmed and who have not been praised from their father, that will spill over into other wounds. And then the other thing is purpose of life. Your father is the one who will give you the meaning and the purpose of life. Again, he validates your identity. And you see that all of these need these emotional, because these are emotional needs, by the way. All of these emotional needs are expressed and met by the Father God. Okay. Now there are different kinds of fathers, and you may find yourself in this, or your father in one of these categories of how your father was. And the first one is the good father. He is the father that provided for you, that made you feel safe and comfort, that gave you some sense of identity. And that is amazing if you did have a good father. There is no perfect father. So that's why I didn't say perfect. I just said good. He's a good father. He's a good father. Yes. Okay. So I'm not a singer, but I just had to throw that in there. But I'll tell you the downfall sometimes of the problem that could arise if you did have a good father. Sometimes you could have a good father, and that could cause you not to be able to let go of your father, let go into a relationship, a marriage, because he was such a good father that you don't feel like anybody can kind of meet that expectation that you have on men. And sometimes it causes you not to really completely let go, to allow God to be your father. So sometimes you have to watch for that. If you did have a good father, you can still have problems with your relationship with God, because sometimes it's just hard to let go, because you did have such a good example. Okay, now this is not always the case, but it could be the case that you can't let go. Okay, that's the daddy's girl, and they become extremely harsh when it comes to other men, because and I'm not saying that your father should not be an example. He should be the example, the standard, but not to the point where you can't let go. There's a demonic attachment there. Okay. Then you have the performance father. This is the father who demands perfect obedience. He demands for you to perform. And the only time he really affirms you or is proud of you is when you are performing. But remember, one of the needs is unconditional love, unconditional affirmation, which means that a father is supposed to affirm you when you do good and when you do bad, finding a way to affirm you. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't bring order and structure, but the performing father only affirms and acknowledges when you have done well, when you have performed well, when you get straight A's. If you don't get straight A, if you come home with a B, the performance father is going to see what's wrong and not necessarily what's right. He's going to punish you if you did not do what you're supposed to do. Versus, and I really try this with my kids. I'm trying my best, because I think as parents, we all have this problem where we do punish our kids for what they do wrong. And, and we reward them for what they do right. But I think the better aim or the better approach is really to affirm them when they do right, and not necessarily punish them when they do wrong, because then they'll aim for that reward. And I was trying to realized this as I was getting my child to be potty trained, and I'm ready to, like, pop her little legs, like, better than to go to the bathroom in these pull-ups, but I'm like, okay, find a way to affirm her somehow when she does go to the potty. And I think that statistics and research have shown I'll pop you. I think statistics and research have shown that when you reward them for doing good, you get greater results than when you punish them for doing wrong. So for my daughter, when she came home with a C in listening, I didn't punish her for it. But what I told her is, for every grade level that you come up from that C, I'm going to give you $10 for every grade letter. So the next round she came back with a B. And then the next round she came back with an A. She wanted them $20, And so you want your children to aim high, okay? Not be fearful of not being perfect, because that can really do something in a child. So just pay attention to that if you do have children, that you really want to try to reward them. That's why I had to even learn with my children not to make them read the Bible when they were being punished. Like, you just did something wrong or whatever. I want you to go read your Bible, but instead I make them read their Bible. I make them read their journal, and I reward them. I buy them something. I let them know, I'll give you a treat if you can read your stuff for like 30 minutes, and we're going to talk about it, and you can write a small paragraph about, and now they want to do it. Now they want, because I don't want them to grow up thinking, I don't want the Bible because mommy made us read it when we were being punished. So you got to really, Dr. Matthew Stevenson, if you don't get off of here. So just be very careful about that. The other father is the passive father. Okay, it's the passive father. So I think that's one of the worst for me personally. Now, everybody got their thing. But the passive father is so horrible, because the passive father is the father that's actually physically there, but he's not really present in emotions. He's the father that is probably a workaholic or occupied with just his own world. He's a very selfish father. He doesn't really discipline his kids. He doesn't direct them, instruct them. He's not there. He's not present. So he's in the house, but he's extremely passive. He may even be what the scripture would call the Ahab. Maybe the mom is doing everything and taking control, and he's just not taking control of his children, his life. He's, and it really does hurt the relationship, because sometimes a mom feels like they have to make up when the dad is a passive dad. But when you have that level of extremity going both ends, where there's a huge gap with the way they respond to their kids, studies and research, y'all know I study research. Research have shown that those are the kids that winds up with a lot of lust and perversion in the house. There's the top few things that allow kids to wind up in a lot of lust and perversion. One of them is a very angry father. It's an angry environment. The other is an environment where the parents are not home enough, and so the kids are left by themselves. Okay. Another one is when the parents do porn and leave porn and magazines and stuff in the house. And another one is when there's an extreme difference with the approach of discipline for your child. So when there's an extreme difference, again, studies have shown, they have done extensive research, that those are the kids that wind up with a lot of perversion. The next one is the absentee father. That's the father, obviously, who is not present. He is not physically there. And then the last one is the authoritarian dad. So he's the dad who is authoritative. He's aggressive. He actually goes beyond the performance driven father. He does not believe in the love of law, but the law of love. So he's a law driven, do what I say, don't ask no questions. He's emotionally detached. He's selfish. He does not give you a voice to express yourself. He is authoritative. He is just the commander, and he's like that military officer in the army where you don't have a right to say anything. You can't even smile. If you smile, you drop down and give teaching me 10. You do as I say. You don't say nothing. You don't ask no questions. You don't do nothing. I am, so that is Principal Joe Clark. Right. So he is even beyond the performance driven, dad, man. And there's a place for authority, but you can't base the essence and the nature of your father. A father should never base the essence and the nature of, because you don't want to shut down their voice. And what happens is you make them live inside. They don't become able to express themselves. And so they say if your child by the age of 10 years old, if your child has been shut down, off to themselves, because that makes a child be alone. They don't even want to, because why are we even connecting? I can't be a person around you. This is about dictatorship. And there's a scripture that says, don't provoke fathers, don't provoke your children to anger. And that sometimes will provoke your children to anger. And so by the time you're 10 years old, if you see your child off to your room, being by themselves, not coming out, it is extremely hard to reverse that season. So you want to make sure that your kid is being connected, they're being present, they have a voice, because if you shut them down, what will also happen is another man can come along and give them that comfort and give them that voice, and then they wind up in a perverted relationship. Another perverted man can take advantage of a child who was in an environment where they could not be themselves. They could not express themselves. They couldn't even cry. You bet not cry. Don't let a tear drop down from your eye. Now, don't get me wrong. Kids are extremely manipulative. So if they crying for too long, there's a time to cry. Come on, it's a season for everything. There's a season for crying, and then there's a season to stop the tears coming from your eyes. There's a season to talk, and there's a season to shut your mouth, okay? So, but there's a season for everything. So let the child express himself. Then when it gets out of balance, come and bring some order to their emotional instability. But if you completely shut them down and they can't express, they can't cry, they can't feel convicted, a tear can't come out their eyes, then watch out, because there are some crazy men out here, and they will give that child a chance to feel comforted, to feel safe, to be able to communicate what's on your heart, what's on your mind, and then they can manipulate your child like that. So if you had any of these problems, and then, there's the abusive father. And that is obviously the father who is abusive, who has been sexually abused, physically, verbally, emotionally, abuse, and that, what that does is causes a child's heart to detach completely from the role of a father. So you may have had the abusive child. You may have had the abusive father. So if you've had any of these experiences with your fathers, what is the next step? The next step is, I'm sure that if you still have issues with it, then it is affecting you. It is affecting your relationships. It is affecting how you communicate. You have to get healed from these issues. And the first thing you have to do is you have to come out of victimization mode. You have to forgive your father. You have to forgive. You know why? Because, as they always say, hurt people hurt people. So if you are hurting, know this, you are hurting people too. And somebody's going to have to forgive you for what you're doing. So forgiveness is fair. So some people feel like, forgiveness is unfair, where he did this to me. He deserved not to get my forgiveness. He deserved to have my bitterness, my anger. But no, it's fair, because if you don't forgive, the Father's not able to forgive you, and you need to be forgiven. So if you need to be forgiven, freely receive, you freely give. Whatever a man sows, that's what he reaps. You need forgiveness. You are not perfect. You're going to hurt people. You're going to make mistakes. You have made a million mistakes with God, and he forgave you, and he died for you even when you were an enemy. He didn't die for his friends. He didn't die for people who loved him, who obeyed him. He died for rebellious people who didn't want him, who rejected him. So forgiveness is fair. You have to forgive, and you have to take responsibility for now your current relationships and your current situation. And you cannot play the victim role any longer, because it will affect you. And some of you all may have forgiven, and some of you all may be going through a process. But you know, the other part of that is taking responsibility for how you are now affecting other people, and making sure that you are whole with this land, making sure that you are whole. Now, some people don't understand the mother wounds. There are mother wounds, and some of your issues are not daddy wounds, they're mother wounds, and it's harder to identify because your mom may have been there, and she may have, you know, raised you by herself, but trust me, mothers are not perfect, and so that imperfection that they have also leave holes and leave gaps into your now and your future if you have not, you know, gone through healing, or if you never even acknowledged that you have mother wounds. If you haven't acknowledged it, then you probably do need some healing from it. Now, the mother is the first place that a baby feels the expression of love. Okay, so babies basically learn to trust from their moms. They learn to trust during the first 2 years of their life, and through nurturing, being nurtured and being breastfed. That's why it's a really good thing for mothers to try as much as possible to breastfeed, because a child learns to connect, and they learn to trust a mom. And if they miss that phase of learning to trust their mom, then they're going to take that into their relationship, and they're going to have major trust problems, and they're going to have fear of relationships. If that you are not, I would be. I ain't studying. Okay. So the way that a mother's affections are is through the way she looks, her eye contact, is through her tone of voice. That's why a mother should never, I cannot stand when I see mothers cursing at their children. Oh my God. I really just want to, you know, I was riding down the street one day, and I heard a mama yelling at her child, "Get your mother effing over here right now. You're a bad little boy." You know, I almost got into, I wanted to slow down and pull over and go talk to that woman and let her know you have no idea what you are doing to your child. No idea at all. But the words, the tone of voice for a mother is very important, and her touch, the way she touches. Oh, is somebody crying? To that, yes, absolutely. I was saying, I hope your mom didn't do the same thing, but mothers do it. They yell, don't get me wrong, you know, we all get frustrated. Oh my Lord, I mean, we need the patience. Mothers need patience. I mean, that is the hardest thing to do, is to get patience with your kids. But you should not be yelling at your kids at the top of your lungs and saying negative things, because that's going to affect their trust. They have to learn to trust the mom. That's their first point of knowing what it means to feel love, for love to be expressed. They get comforted by the expression of a mother's love and touch and tone of voice, and a mom, you know, affirming and saying, "You're beautiful." I was the yelling mom. Yes, it happens. It does happen. But you got to be very cautious and aware. And for men, what happens is, because it's the mother. Now, remember, the father teaches identity, providing a safe place. So he's the one that teaches that comfort and that safe place and that identity and that purpose. But it's the mom who teaches a child love, intimacy, and connection. So even for men who become very angry, are not in tune with their emotions, non-affectionate, they cannot embrace and don't get this wrong, don't get this the wrong way, but they cannot embrace the feminine or the nurturing side of them. They become extremely performance, like the performance dad. He was probably someone who had issues with a mother. Even if the mom was there, again, if you're missing these, they become performance driven. They become angry. They don't know how to connect. They don't understand intimacy and affection. So they're actually feel uncomfortable being affectionate, or even being vulnerable and communicating vulnerability, receiving love and giving love. This is, someone looks angry. Why are you looking angry, Faith 11? This is given by the mother. This is all directed and sculpted by the mother's love and the mother's embrace. So a person, and this happens for a woman too. So a person who doesn't receive this winds up rejecting affection. They wind up and this winds up affecting their relationships with people, with marriage, with God. He's so silly. They wind up rejecting all of their relationship, the affection from their relationships. So they don't understand even how to receive love from God or even give love. They don't understand it. And the other problem is, because they have not experienced the pure touch of a mother, the pure affection. That's why it starts even with being breastfed. Then they wind up going into they wind up not knowing what a pure touch looks like. So they wind up in unhealthy sexual desires, because they have not had intimacy defined. There's no standard or no measurement where intimacy has been defined. So now when someone else comes in and tries to teach them what intimacy is, and it's perverted, they receive it. They don't know what a pure touch looks like. They don't know what pure intimacy, what pure connection looks like. They don't know what pure communication a lot of times look like. Because remember, it's her tone of voice and how she speaks to that child. They don't even know what a pure look looks like. So because it's the way she looks at her child too. And then some women can even wind up going into women can even, so just like I said, men won't embrace that nurturing feminine side, women won't either. So a mother is supposed to tell her child, you are beautiful, you are gorgeous, you got the beauty of God on you, so a woman is supposed to affirm the femininity side of a woman. So sometimes women will embrace their more masculine side if that is missing from a mother. So the understanding of how to walk in pure love is established by the mother. So a person like that will wind up going into all kind of relationships, not understanding. Even when God comes looking for them and comes seeking after them, they're afraid. They're scared. Like, what is this? I haven't known this. This is unfamiliar. And because it's unfamiliar, they'll fall for anything. And that's why they fall for even sometimes perverted relationships. So believe it or not, I know we've made even homosexuality just a male problem and just a lack of father. And it is a rejection problem, but it could have been the rejection from the mother, the rejection of a affectionate touch, the rejection of her tone of voice. It could be the source of rejection from mother or father. And if any of you are pregnant, you got to be very careful, because the repetitive thoughts that you think in your mind while you are carrying your child is also, that is the baby's first place of connection and contact with a mother's voice. So remember that a mother can actually release this affection and this communication and this tone of voice to a child even in the womb. So, if you're yelling and, it's a spiritual connection also, So you got to make sure that if you are pregnant, that you are speaking words of affirmation and words of love. I cannot wait to meet you in there. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be funny, but you got to speak words of affirmation in your tone. And I love you. I remember wrestling with the regret of having a baby, my last child, because I was in so much pain and I was so sick. And I had to tell myself, when I started saying, why did I get pregnant? What is wrong with me? Why did I do this to myself? I had to tell myself, even in my sickness, I was sick as a dog, but I had to tell myself, you want this child. This is your pain that is speaking. You will not reject her. You wanted her. You wanted her bad. Like, I really wanted to have her. But the moment I got sick and the moment pain started to come, I started to have feelings of reject. And I knew that I didn't want to do that and release those spirits of rejection between me and my child. And I knew it was just pain speaking. I just didn't want the pain. It wasn't that I didn't want the child. I didn't want the pain. So I had to separate the difference and tell myself, no, you will not think those kind of repetitive thoughts. You do want this child. And I started to have to speak different words. Now the thing is, and then you can ask a few questions if you like. The thing is that the thing you have to realize, and I realized this very early on, is that you cannot learn necessarily to love. Love doesn't flow from the letter. It doesn't. The letter will measure your love, but you can't really learn love. You have to experience love, because we love him because he first loved us. If you don't have the capability to experience love, then love cannot flow from you, and it won't flow from you. Love flows from the Spirit. You have to address the hidden pain, and you have to repent from your lack of submission to receiving love. Because see, some of you all don't know how to receive love. People get sent into your life. You're judging, you're measuring, you're being harsh, you're being pessimistic because you don't trust, because you got mama wounds and you got daddy wounds, and you don't know your identity and you don't feel safe. But if you are ever going to love and demonstrate love, you cannot demonstrate love outside of experiencing and receiving love. You cannot give what you don't have to give. I hope that blessed you right there. You have to experience love. You cannot give it if you have been closed off, if you have been shut off, whether you know it or not. You can't just learn it. Okay, now you can measure your love by the word, by the law, by the letter, but love doesn't flow from the letter. It flows from the Spirit. It flows from the Spirit. Okay, it flows from the Spirit. So you have to come into contact with that. So if you have an inability to love the way God wants to love, then what your prayer has to be is, God, let me experience your love from people, from you. Let me learn how to receive it. Speak to me. The words that I speak, they're spirit and life. Speak to me and plant seeds of love in me so that I can give it, because I can't give what I don't have. And one of the things that I used to do was I used to constantly ask God, because see, let me just express to you really quick. My mom raised me. She was a great mom. She did the best she could, but she was going through a divorce, and I didn't receive I don't ever remember receiving affection from my mom. Maybe I did. I just don't remember it. And it's got to be memorable for a child. So I learned I had mother issues, not just daddy issues. And so I had to learn what intimacy looked like, what love looked like, what pure touch looked like. I had to learn all of that. But I had no idea. I thought all of this stuff was daddy issues. And like when I found out that these were mother issues that I had never addressed them. So that means that there were layers still in me that had not been addressed because I had not given it any acknowledgement. There was no awareness, and you can't change what you're not aware of. So I had to address it. And for the first time, I spoke out of my mouth, I forgive you, Mom. But that was, I had never done that in my life. I didn't even know that, but it broke something off of me when I began to just weep. And I'm like, I forgive you, Mom, because my mom never, now we have an amazing relationship. We hug. I started to hug her. I started to tell her I love her. We started to connect on a different level. But growing up, I don't remember my mom. But you know what I found out? I found out that my mom's mom wasn't in her life. So she couldn't give me what she didn't have. So I don't even blame her. She had to experience the same thing. Her mom was actually an alcoholic, and she gave them up. She left them. She abandoned them. So I had to come you got to understand, your mom and your dad, whatever they did to you, if you learn their background, you will have compassion for what they had to go through. So my mom had to go through worse than what I had to go through. So I understood it, but I still had to forgive her because there was no affection. There was no, I love you. I knew she loved me how she knew how to love me, the best she could. She worked. She had to go through 3 divorces. It was hard for her, and I understood it. But I was left without knowing what intimacy looked like, what trust looked like, because I don't remember as a child my mom ever embracing me and saying, I love you, mwah, mwah, you're my baby. I don't remember any of that. But I know she loved me. But it did something to me, and I didn't realize that my relationships were affected by it until later on in life. And I was like, wow. So I had to ask God, God, every day I would ask him, tell me you love me. Speak to me the language of your love. I would study the Song of Solomon because I had to learn what it meant to, connect with God on that level. I had to receive it. I had to start to experience. I'm like, God, show me. Let me experience your love. I can't just learn it. I can't just study it. I have to experience it. It has to be given to me. And God began to speak to me all the time and say, I love you. And I'm telling you, those words really broke some things through me because once I began to receive it, because remember, faith comes by hearing the word, not reading it. Reading the Bible don't give you faith, y'all, unless God is speaking while you are reading. That's why Jehovah's Witness and just random people can read and it not affect them. Faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. When Jesus was in the wilderness, God began to say, man shall not, or Jesus began to say, man shall not live by bread alone, but every word proceeding. That means every word that he is speaking, every word that he is currently, the rhema of God is what gives you faith, not the logos, unless God is speaking while you're reading, which happens. So when you're reading your word, you want God to speak. You want life to be there. Else faith is not built just from that. If you're just looking for knowledge and information, and people do it all the time. They read the word like it's research, but it doesn't build faith. So God began to speak those words to me, and I began to have faith to receive the love of God. And I had a journey of intimacy, y'all, and it was great. My journey of intimacy is amazing, and that's the foundation of my relationship with God. It's communication and intimacy, and some people miss this foundation. But for about 1.5 years straight, I asked God every day, speak to me that you love me. Show me you love me. Let me experience your love. When I'm in worship, let me experience it. Let me experience it with the people around. Let me begin to see love around me. Let me not reject it from people. Okay, so you have to experience love in order for that thing to be broken from the mother wounds of not understanding what pure intimacy and pure relationship looks like. I hope that blessed you guys. I really do. Because it's a very important thing that we must understand when it comes to these wounds. We have to address them if we're going to flourish in our relationship, if we're going to walk in love. And y'all, this is why some people don't have the ability to love. It's not in them to do it. If you got them hidden wounds and they have not been addressed, you just don't, and you look at people like, why they can't flow in the love of God, why they don't have the signs of the Spirit on them, It's because they haven't experienced it. They've rejected it. They don't know what it looks like. They don't understand pure intimacy. And when some of that stuff is addressed, your sexual desires even will begin to change, because now you'll understand and you will experience what real intimacy looks like. And when you do, you won't have a need for false love and for false intimacy and for a perverted touch or a perverted look, or that man that makes you get excited because he flirt with you, or say you got a big butt and you look good and all this. That stuff will begin to disgust you because you've encountered true love. You've encountered pure intimacy. You've encountered the communication of God. And it's going to bring a level of comfort, and it's going to begin to change your desires, and you're going to see all of that other stuff as being perverted, and you're going to see it the way God sees it. Because right now you don't. You think it's cute when he flirting, when she flirting, when, all of that perverted stuff is happening. But when you experience real intimacy, it strips away the need to have any false love that's been given over to you. Even some of the relationships that you're in, it's because you don't understand what real love looks like, what true, pure intimacy, pure love. That man don't love you. That woman don't love you, especially if you're trying to get in your pants. Okay, that's not pure love. But when you experience the pure love of God, it'll make you cut some of these relationships off. A lot of it is false love. You just don't know it because you've never had a foundation given to you. And even if your mom was there, it does not mean that she did it. She did the best job she could according to what she had. But if you plan on giving your kids the kind of love that they need, there was a story where the woman was didn't affirm the daughter, and she did go off into her masculine ways, didn't want to wear dresses, didn't want to be feminine, and as the mom start to shift her communication and began to express to her beauty and began to affirm her femininity, the girl began to blossom and she began to change. I'm not saying you got to wear a dress and all that. I'm just saying she just started to embrace her femininity. And the same is true with men. That's why they become harsh and cruel and angry and non-compassionate. A lot of men like that, they didn't receive the nurturing of a mother. And God is a nurturer. So God does represent both sides of the spectrum. So he represents the feminine part, the nurturing part, and he represents also the masculine part. And you need both in order to have a healthy relationship. So for some of you all who have journeyed through father wounds, that's great. But now it's time to journey, if you haven't, through mother wounds, and begin to acknowledge and ask yourself questions. Begin to figure out what happened while you were a child. How did your mom communicate? How was her touch? Do you remember feeling love? Feeling trust come from her? And dig deeper than what you would normally dig, and ask God to show you and to unveil some things that may be buried deep within, so that you can get healed. And I had to go through the same journey myself, but I promise you, if you go through this journey and you understand what pure love and pure intimacy looks like, then your desires will begin to change for some of these relationships that you're in, and your commitment levels to relationships, to friendships, and male-female relationships, all of the above. Even your relationship with God will even begin to change as you begin to experience now the love of God. And the only way fear can be broken, is by love. Perfect love casts out all fear. Fear is not something that can necessarily just be cast out like go, go, go. It has to be overtaken by light. It's just like the darkness that you walk into in a room. What's the only way that you can get rid of the darkness? You turn the light on. The light has to come. The light has to come. Love has to come. You have to experience the Father's love in order to have fear broken off your life. The fear that you have in your relationships, or just period. Light and love they are the same. They have to come. And you have to experience it. You cannot just know it. You can't know it through somebody else's testimony. You have to experience love. Okay. Nope. It can't just be cast out. It has to. You can't walk into a dark. Fear is like a dark room. I'm just giving an analogy. You can't say, darkness, go away. No. You have to turn on light. And what happens? The darkness, it disperses. It leaves. Because now love is there. Perfect love cast out all fear. Might be some you getting rid of, but perfect love cast out all fear. He is the light. He is love. And if you don't know him, then you don't know love. Thank you so much at Peace M8. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. And I hope it was a blessing to you. Hey, I really want to see you guys walk in a season of freedom. And I noticed that some people cannot even live up to the expectation of the first and the second commandment that God, the second is as the first. And we are doing a lot of things. But if you can't live up to the one commandment that God has required you to live, it is the priority of God. So whatever you think is your priority above understanding this concept of love, intimacy, relation, whatever you think is above that, it's not. Because he said, I've summed it all up in one. They asked, what is your priority? That you love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with your will, with everything that's a part of you. And the second one is as the first, that you will love your neighbor as yourself. The only expression that and only manifestation that you have that you love God is the way you love people. Bam. How do we know you love God? God ain't standing in front of you. He ain't coming to you saying hi. You ain't, you know what I'm saying? You're not physically like serving him. Like when you're serving people, you're serving him. So you got to think about that. What does it mean to serve God? To serve people. Do you love me, Peter? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? How do you show me that? Feed my sheep. I can tell some of you all don't love God by the way you treat your neighbor. Some of y'all like, I love God, I love God. How does that look? How does that look? It looks like how you treat people, how you love people, how you serve, how you open up your bowels of compassion and you don't close them up for others. Okay? Some of you all are horrible givers. Y'all don't know how to serve. Y'all think y'all serving God because y'all somewhere up in a closet praying? No. You love me, Peter? Feed my sheep. I'm telling you what it means to love me. That's what he was saying. So, I hope you understand again this concept. It is the first commandment. Paul began to teach about it. And he began to say, hey, you can give your body to be burned. You can give all your money away. You can sacrifice everything. But if you have not love, you have nothing. You're like a sounding brass. You just a bunch of noise that's not even important right now. But if you have not love, it means absolutely nothing. Get your love life in order. But in order to do that, it starts with being healed from these mother wounds and these father wounds that cause you not to know what love looks like. All right. Well, I am finished. And thank you guys so very much for listening. And again, I just pray that you were blessed by this. Thank you so much at Jensen Stoppable. Amen. Please, if you have not, I'll give you like 60 seconds. If you haven't invited your followers, I want them to be healed too. Please invite them now. They can still look at the replay if you invite them. And thank you so much at Patricia. Please make yourself known to me. Patricia. I got to remember that. I think that's what it said. Yes, please invite your followers so that they can see this. They can see the replay, even if they can't see it now. Post it on Facebook, Twitter, do what you got to do. I just want to get the message out so that people can take this journey and we can be unified and we can become in one so that the world may know that God the Father loves them, because the only way that they can know that God loves them is the way we love the world. So remember in John 17, Jesus never prayed for the world. He said, I'm praying for my church. I'm praying that you would love one another, because if you do that, then they'll know that I love them too. If Jesus be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me, is what he said. So I'm just rambling right now so you can invite your followers. And thank you so much. Yes, Miss Dottie, Miss Dot, please put it on YouTube for me. Thank you for that. I still haven't figured out how to even do all of that. And please, thank you so much. Do that for me. They will know that they're Christians by love. Absolutely. So we got to do better, guys, and it starts with healing. All right, thank you guys. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to go home and do some work now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with me for however many minutes I've been talking. And God bless you. I will talk to you very soon. And for those who will be at the Intercessors Conference, it is Thursday night, Friday all day, Saturday morning, I think until like 2 o'clock. If you have not registered, please get registered. Visit us at www.allnationswa.com to register for the conference. I'll be there this weekend. I'll be in and out. I'm planning for a trip to Las Vegas, but I will be in the house. And if you have any questions, also visit me www.healthyandbetter.com. www.healthyandbetter.com. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and just give me a little patience, give me some patience, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you and have a blessed day, all of you. Love you guys.